Last year on Power Reviews. We're here to discuss Power Rangers.
Psychological evaluation of
Everything's connected!
dosage of heavy sedatives.
What?
Do I exist?
Doesn't matter. Thus ends year 0. And now, Database Rangers Power Review. Greetings, Ranger fans, and welcome to Power Reviews. And welcome to year 1. I hope you all had a happy new year. Kay and I had a blast staying up and watching the ball drop. 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year! And what better way to start off the new year than with some New Year's resolutions? I've got a list of my own right here. How about you, Doctor?
Although we fail to recognize the significance of this particular arbitrary point in the terrestrial planetary heliocentric revolution, I have developed a set of objectives for the newly designated annum.
Anything you'd like to share with the rest of us?
No.
Alright, well, I've got a list of my top 5 right here. First up, I'd like to find a publisher for my 2 books, The Mind-Numbing Over-Analysis of Children's Television and The Life and Times of Bulkmeyer and Skullovich, Heroes of Horath. I think this might be the year. Next is make some new friends. Preferably ones whose existence is directly verifiable. No offense, Doctor.
None taken.
Maybe get to know the neighbors better.
No.
Or maybe I'll get some new neighbors. Next up is getting some cardio. Maybe do a little running. That probably won't be until the summer, though. Number 4 is be somebody's hero. I know it's sappy, but you can't watch Power Rangers as long as I have without developing something of a sentiment for that. And last, but definitely not least, is regarding this very show. From here on out, no more skipping around and cherry picking through Samurai and Super Samurai. We're going straight through. Starting today, we'll be reviewing all 7 final episodes of Super Samurai, all in a row. And starting in March, we will be tackling each and every episode of Power Rangers Megaforce, all the way through to year's end. It's a tall order, but I think we can do it. And I can't think of a better place to start off the new year than with today's episode, the mid-season premiere of Power Rangers Super Samurai, which first aired the very same day as the first episode of Power Reviews. But, as always, context is paramount. So Dr. K, let's run through some key plot points from last time.
Yes. Sarada betrayed Master Xandred by withholding the inaccurately titled harmonium from him. Xandred countered by appearing in the human world and reclaiming the harmonium and restoring it for Dayu. These efforts dried him out, forcing him to soak in the Sanzu River for an indeterminate period of time. And the Rangers accomplished nothing of merit.
I suppose that is true. Jaden especially took quite a beating. So let's see what happens next and kick off year 1 with episode 14 of Power Rangers Super Samurai, A Crack in the World. So it looks like Jaden has fully recovered from the battle with Xandred, and the team is back to their standard opening training sequence. Mike is having some trouble sparring with Kevin, who has apparently coated his Shinai with flubber. Kevin fails to notice Mike's antics though, as he is suddenly preoccupied with the events of last episode. Apparently, none of them were paying any attention during the last battle, and he's the first to recognize the obvious fact that Sarada has gone rogue. Thinking back to the events of Trust Me, Kevin realizes just how deliberate the Nylok has been about the location of his attacks, forming a straight line across the map. As if on cue, Sarada summons a new monster from the Sanzu River, Pestilox, and hands over the magic whirligig to help him locate the next point on the line. But not so fast, because Octoroo has finally figured out the traitor's plan.
You're driving wedges of misery into the human world to split it open so you can instantly flood the Earth.
I actually really like this plan.
I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. Let's do it.
There's more to it, of course. Tearing an opening between the 2 worlds is incredibly dangerous to both sides, and to finish the job, he needs someone who is of both worlds, but belongs to neither.
Decker, you need him to deliver the final strike, don't you?
Which totally makes sense. Sarada is not only responsible for Decker's existence, but also still has possession of Uramasa, the only thing the Half-Nylok cares about. Even now, with Dayu ready to rip Sarada apart for his betrayal in The Master Returns, Decker is still prepared to wait on the restoration of his treasured blade, which has finally been completed. Finally! Exposition that is actually coherent and makes sense. Thank you. Now, let's move on to the rest of the plot, which is apparently about Antonio catching a rubber fish, which I guess is supposed to be really big, and worthy of photographic record, and super slippery, I guess? Ooh, did you see that? I'll bring it back for you. There. No interaction, but that is the second to last time that Bulk and Spike will be in the same shot with one of the Rangers before series end. Drink it in, people. Okay, moving on. Antonio's fishy photo shoot, which is oddly flirtatious, I might add, is interrupted by the arrival of Pestilox. While the rest of the team dashes out of the Shiba house, Antonio morphs and bursts out of the photo booth, giving us our final shared shot of Bulk and Spike with a Power Ranger. Treasure these fleeting moments.
I will remember you. Will you remember me?
No, they won't. Completely oblivious to this, the pair finish up their Tai Chi training and grab some lunch.
You know what I like best after Tai Chi? Chai tea!
Unfortunately, their little pun fest is ruined by Pestilox, who has been sending his evil bug swarm down the throats of the innocent, infecting them with terrible stomach pains. Before they can become his next victims, Bulk and Spike flee and take refuge in the photo booth, which can apparently shield against demonic insects. And all gastrointestinal unpleasantness aside, there is one thing I need to address here. Now, as established, Antonio ran out of the photo booth past Bulk and Spike to go face Pestilox. So how was it that, while walking, they managed to encounter the monster first, and take refuge in that same photo booth? Continuity error? Perhaps, but I have an alternate theory. Now, assume that this here is a city block with streets on either side. This here is the coastline with the photo booth here. Pestilox entered here, the gap sensor detecting him, and here is where Bulk and Spike were practicing Tai Chi. Now, as you can see, Antonio headed over here, past them to the photo booth, morphed, then headed back around the corner to face off against Pestilox. However, at the same time, Pestilox was coming around the corner this way. Now, as we saw, Bulk and Spike headed off in the opposite direction from Antonio. Thus, they encountered Pestilox and his victims here, took refuge in the photo booth here, with plenty of time to have a long comedic sequence before Antonio arrived on the scene here. Thus, another geographical quandary solved for the PR universe. And I think I just got an idea for my next book. Anywho, the Gold Ranger slices, dices, and makes julienne flies out of the swarm, just in time for the rest of the team to join him. Though the monster summons a squad of Moogers, the Rangers make quick work of them, and are ready to take him down too, when Sir Raider dives in to ensure the success of his plan. Jaden goes super and warns him that they've spotted the pattern to his attacks, but Sir Raider bats him away, telling him that it's far too late to stop the Final Wedge now.
Wedge? A wedge of human sadness put in just the right place to split the earth in two.
You know, Sir Raider, the audience already knows your plan. You don't need to tell the Rangers. He sends Pestilox off to cause more misery, and the Rangers split up, with Mia, Jaden, and Emily going after the monster, while the rest keeps the Raider occupied. They're no match for him, of course, and are quickly brushed aside. But before he can finish the job, Decker arrives on the scene, much to Sir Raider's glee.
My plan is reaching its climax.
So, apparently the climax of his plan involves a lot of gloating, as he points out the purple energies of the nearby crowd to be their misery forming the Final Wedge. Alright, Decker definitely does not need to hear your plan. Not only does he probably not care, but in your own words.
You'd be trouble if you knew how much my plan depended on you, Decker.
That still doesn't stop him, though. We flash to the Google Earth view of his prior attacks, which doesn't remotely match the map we saw in the Shiba house, and he explains that he only gained Xandred's trust to make use of his monsters. Even though Sir Raider was the one usually supplying said monsters, Iskar worked for Octoroo, and Arachnator was a mindless loose cannon. How can you be simultaneously enforcing and deconstructing continuity? He continues to go on about how splitting the world apart will unleash all of the Sanzu River at once, which will somehow make him the ruler of both worlds, and I need a break from all this. Let's see what the others are up to. With a little bit of teamwork and a lot of help from the Bullzooka, the red, yellow, and pink Rangers managed to take down Pestilox and relieve his victims from their pain. But not even this can put a damper on Serrator's day.
No matter. Soon my final wedge will sink into the earth.
Okay, we get it. Wedge of misery, you can stop now. So Pestilox grows, and the 3 nearby rangers urge the civilians to safety and...
Don't bother. See? Their misery is sinking into the earth.
Look, just stop. Please, just stop. So...
Now, the last wedge is finally in place.
I'm sorry I asked for more exposition. Please, please, just stop.
Enough talk.
Thank you. Of course, this isn't the end for Serrator's manipulations. With everything in place, he still needs Decker to make the final strike. So, Serrator pulls Uramasa out of his sleeve and demands that Decker fulfill his side of the bargain. The half-Nihilak dismisses the idea, but it turns out there's one last twist. All the pain of his curse has been locked up inside Uramasa, and the only way to unleash it and free himself once and for all is to do as Serrator asks. Before this little drama has a chance to play out, though, Emily, Jaden, and Mia face off against Pestilox and the Samurai Megazord. Oh, sorry, I meant the Giant Moogers in the Beetle Blaster Megazord. Oh no, they're finishing them off with the Swordfish Fencer Megazord. I meant the Tiger Drill Megazord against Pestilox. I mean the Spitfangs. And now they're in the Battle Wing, make up your minds! So they finally decide to settle on the Claw Armor Megazord and the Samurai Artillery, using the power of Shogun mode to destroy Pestilox once and for all. But it's too late. While Serrator has been chewing the scenery and Decker has been weighing his options, the energy from the wedge has been surging. Before a decision can be made, the ground bursts apart, sending everyone flying in a shower of debris. Off in the distance, Dayu watches as each point along the line erupts in an inferno of energy, slowly ripping the world apart. As the city crumbles around him, Serrator hovers in the air, telling Decker to meet him at the weakest point between worlds. Confident that the half-Nihilak will make the final strike when the time is right, he laughs maniacally at his assured and impending victory. And that's the end of our episode. So what did I think of it? Well, I'm torn. I really like the plot of this episode. It gives a great sense of context and purpose to so much of Serrator's previous actions, tying together the origins of Dayu and Decker from Broken Dreams into his overarching plans for Super Samurai, and showing us how all the different monster attacks have played their role as well. It's very similar to Lothor's plan from Ninja Storm, but far more strategically solid. The problem here is not the plot. The problem is that they hammer the plot into us like a... well...
Wedge.
Cheese.
Wedge.
Chris.
Wedge.
Atomic.
Wedge.
E.
Wedge. Enough talk.
Thank you. It takes a full 8 minutes from the moment Decker arrives on the scene to the moment Serrator offers him Uramasa. That's more than a third of the episode. Which brings me to my next point. All redundancy aside, the place where this episode really falls apart is in the pacing. It's a strange example of how something can simultaneously feel rushed and padded at the same time. Case in point, let's take a look at the battles. We fly through an astonishing number of fight scenes in a very short amount of time, constantly introducing new opponents as distractions and constantly changing weapons and Megazord modes. This could work if there was some sense of frenetic energy to the script to carry it through, but there isn't. They just keep throwing things at us, not leaving us any breathing room, and it all just kind of homogenizes as a result. Which is a shame because, like the rest of this episode, it should be really cool. If there had been less repetitive gloating from Serrator, and a bit more of the Rangers dealing with the repercussions of last episode, and the consequences of the world being split apart, then... well, like I just said, the world is being split apart. This should be huge. Overall, though, despite clear dialogue and pacing issues, the plot itself is solid, and definitely sets the stage for a potentially interesting endgame. So, while it is not as well executed as Broken Dreams was last year, I do feel as though it better serves its purpose as a mid-season premiere, by giving the season a clear sense of direction. Of course... we'll still have to see if the payoff is worth the painfully drawn-out setup, so make sure to join us next time as we continue our journey through Super Samurai's Final 7 with Stroke of Fate. Until then, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.